Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be providing my market prediction on when and where the Ethereum bottom will ultimately be. So if you're new to the channel and you want to show some support, please leave a like and subscribe. So I'm going to go over this logarithmic regression curve later on in the video, but I just wanted to show it because, it's a pretty interesting curve that we can see historically has acted as some of the best accumulation zones, and recently we have dipped our toes back into this accumulation zone. So do keep that in mind when I'm talking about some of these key levels here, and just kind of, aware that, we could see some sort of bottom within this regression curve. All right, so I'm going to be going over this all-time high that we saw in January of 2018. And really, this is kind of Bitcoin's $20,000 level. It's a very important macro level, and I think when we do reclaim this level, and maybe we hold it as support, but I think when we reclaim this and hold it as support, there will be some pretty definitive evidence that we could have a bottom in place. So if the bottom right now is already in, then I would expect something like this where we come above, and again, it's at $1,463. You can see it on the right here. This corresponds to the all-time high of 2018. So if we were to come above this and maybe start consolidating, holding it as support and trending back up, in this case, I would actually make the assumption that the bottom is in, considering how this is. This is a very important level. This was the all-time high for a few years, and we saw how when we broke above this level, we came down, we held it as support in February of 2021. That was kind of, the bullish sign we needed, and that took us to new all-time highs, forming this peak here at around $4,400. So following this very important flip from resistance into support, we had this mini blow off top phase where in just the following few weeks, we pumped around 100, actually 210%. So if we do reclaim this level and hold it as support, then that is going to be a very bullish sign for me. And I think in this case, I would be buying any kind of retest of this as support. And again, if we hold it as support, if we just have, a brief period above it and then we come back below it, that is not a great sign. We want to see it hold as support. And really, I think that if we are doing something like this where we come back above it, and kind of deviating above this, then I would expect at the very least a retest of this low. So I also want to talk about this yellow line here. This is the 200, actually this is the 300-week simple moving average, and the kind of reason we have just seen it form in April is because you need a minimum of 300 weeks to get this average. So we can't really compare it to prior bear markets, because we didn't have a 300-week simple moving average back then, but today we do, and currently we have this low here that is bounced off of this 300-week simple moving average. And I think that historically in most asset classes, a 300-week simple moving average is a pretty tremendous area to accumulate in some sort of macro uptrend. And I'm not talking about, this short-term decline. If we take a look back and we step back, we can see, over the long term, Ethereum is trending up with time. So a 300-week simple moving average has a pretty large implication on the market. And I think anywhere around the 300-week simple moving average, whether it be a few percent above or a few percent below, will historically be looked back upon as one of the best areas to accumulate Ethereum for the long term. We also can look towards the Bitcoin 300-week simple moving average and see how, historically we haven't even tested it for Bitcoin. So I'm going to switch over to the Bitcoin chart real quick, and just to show you here, this is the 300-week simple moving average for Bitcoin. We can see how there was some sort of retest of this in March 2020. However, the actual low was just a few percent above this. And if we zoom all the way out, we can see how, we've never really tested it before. So historically, that goes to show you how we are at some very, very significantly low levels. So I'm going to switch back to the Ethereum chart, and I want to talk about this logarithmic regression curve that I showed you in the earlier stages of this video. So I'm going to switch back here, over to this logarithmic regression curve, and one thing that I want to show you here is how we have, this color-coded indicator where we can see the price moves of this cycle in comparison to the prior cycle. So it's color-coded based on the extension from the middle line of this logarithmic regression curve. And I think this goes to show you how, the peak valuations, when we're very far extended above this mid curve, that corresponds to these red colors, these warmer colors, and when we're at peak extension below it, that corresponds to these darker blue ones, the cooler colors. So you can see how we've entered back into the blue color range, but I want to highlight this peak here where the highest we got, the most extended that we got above this middle curve here. If we take a measured move, the most extended we got was about 645%. So again, that corresponded to the green color range, whereas if we go all the way back to the 2018 cycle peak, we can see that we were actually extended about 3,000% above this middle line. So this leaves me with a few takeaways. One, the fact that we were so far extended above this middle line sort of meant that we would have a pretty harsh bear market, right? Because we had such a crazy blow off top. We moved up way too quickly. We had an extension 3,000% above. So obviously that would correspond to, the ebb and flow where we have an extension pretty far below this. And at peak extension below this in March of 2020, we actually saw about a 60% drawdown from the mid curve to the low. But, in general, I think that the fact that we had such a large extension above this midline kind of warranted a pretty harsh bear market. But we didn't have as far of an extension above, so I would say most likely this bear market is going to be less severe because we had less of a blow off top, less of a mania phase, less euphoria. So I would say anywhere around this middle line of this regression curve is going to be a phenomenal region to accumulate Ethereum, especially considering a multi-year time horizon. So currently this midline is at around $830. And we can see how this is going to be monotonically increasing. So if we best fit line and extend this out, we can see how, if we were to say bottom towards the end of this year, then it could correspond to a value of this midline being around the $1,000. So take that for what it is, because the longer it takes us to get to a bottom, the higher this regression curve will ultimately be. So we could have some sort of bottom in place, but have a price action that is lower in the regression band later on. So what I mean by that is we can see how in December 2018, the bottom corresponded to about the end of this regression curve at the bottom here. And later on, this next local bottom was lower than this regression curve, even though this was the global bottom. So we could see something similar this time around. And I would say that, if you have the patience of a multi-year time horizon, anywhere around this midline is going to be a phenomenal region to accumulate. And I expect the bottom to be somewhere between $750 and $850. Not only because it corresponds to the midline of this regression curve, but we saw how that has, implications with the 300-week simple moving average. And we can see this high here in May of 2018, this dead cat bounce after this phenomenal euphoria. We had this dead cat bounce all the way up to around $800. So we take, an average of plus or minus $50, anywhere around that range, I would expect to hold as support and be some sort of bear market low. And again, I do think this is going to correspond to the end of this year, sometime in quarter four. If you're curious on why I believe that to be, it's because I believe Bitcoin is going to experience its bottom in quarter four. And Ethereum and Bitcoin are very highly correlated. So any bottom around Bitcoin will most likely lead to a bottom short after with Ethereum. And if you want to know why I think the bottom on Bitcoin is going to be quarter four, go back and watch some of my previous videos where I kind of discuss that in length. So that's my analysis on Ethereum and my prediction on when and where the Ethereum bottom will be. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video, and as always, I will see you in the next one.